Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make this coffee machine animation sequence in Adobe After Effects. In this video, we'll learn some important animation technique which really level up your content quality. So make sure you watch till the end. I will explain everything step by step. Without further ado, let's get started. Let's start by creating a new composition. I'll stay with default values except the duration. I'll change it to 20 seconds and click OK. Now we'll bring a illustration file over here. Make sure in this drop down composition is selected and click OK. Now get into this composition. We need to change its composition size. Go to here and right click, select composition settings, select its preset to this one and click OK. Now I need to scale up these layers a little bit, but if I scale up it make a little bit mismatch. For solving this problem I'll right click and create a null object and select all of these layers and parent it to this null. Now I'll scale up this null. Here you go, and maximize the background size by Ctrl Alt F. By the way, you can download this illustration file from description. And right side of the screen you can see the keyboard shortcut I'm using in this project. First of all, I'll animate the cup. I'll bring this playhead right here and hit P on keyboard for animating positions. Now select this keyframe and bring it right over here, and I will bring this cup out of the sequence from right side. I will also like to add a rotation keyframe in this animation also. Our rotation keyframe and here's another. I'll rotate it little bit upward. I'll select these two keyframe and now select this keyframe and bring it little bit here. Now select this keyframe and bring it right over here, and select this one and make it copy and paste it here. Now here is our animation. At this point we'll animate the handle. Right click it and create shape from vector layer. Here is a new shape layer created from this vector file. Click on drop down menu, content, group. Here is two group created, path. Now we'll animate these two paths. Here is our first keyframe. Now bring this playhead right over here. Now select this path one and bring this point at the center of the coffee machine. Make it a little bit more round by adjusting these points. You can make it a little bit more round. Make this point, bring this point at the top of this layer. Here's our final version. Now hit U and make a copy of it and select this one and drag it over here and paste it and paste our first keyframe over here. It seems little bit slow now. Select all of these keyframes and hit Alt and left click of the mouse and drag it little bit inside. Now it seems little bit fast. Now select all of this keyframe and hit F9 and go to graph editor and bring this point little bit inside. Now it will little bit fast. I need to readjust the second graph editor a little bit. Everything looks pretty good now. For animating the coffee, I'll make a shape layer with pen tool and make a path over here and change its color to this original color and click OK. And I'll disable the fill. I'll bring this layer over here. Now I'll delete the original layer. Now I'll add a trim path on this layer. Here's our trim path. Click the drop down and bring this playhead right over here and make a keyframe on int and drag it over here and make it 0. Now I have to make it ease and readjust it on graph editor. Now add a web warp effect on this layer and change its direction to 110 and adjust its pace by making a keyframe. We'll make another keyframe over here and make a distance on these keyframes. Bring this layer at the top. Now I'll make another shape layer for the inside of this cup. I'll enable the fill layer and disable the stroke. I'll readjust its path position a little bit. Now I'll make a rectangle shape layer. Change its color to this one. Scale it up a little bit and track matte this layer with the inside of the cup. Readjust this layer a little bit. Now I'll change its wave weight to 30. Hit P for adjusting position values. Here's our one keyframe and here's our beginner keyframe. When this first drop is reach here, then it will gradually rising up. At this point, I will select these keyframes and make it easy and go to graph editor and adjust this point. At this point, I will duplicate this layer by pressing Ctrl D and change its color to just like this one. Now bring this layer little bit right side. Now at this point we will animate the direction. Make a keyframe over here in both layer and bring this playhead right over here. Now change this direction value to 0. Now select this keyframe and bring it over here. At this point, we'll animate the direction in this two layer. Here's our first keyframe. And our second direction keyframe will be 20. Copy it and paste it in this. Now select this two layer and bring it at this position. Now we'll make another shape layer so that our coffee stream always stays inside this box. Select this layer and track matte with this layer. Now I will adjust its position a little bit. I need to scale it up a little bit. Now it's look better. At this point, when this glass is full, I'll turn this coffee stream off. Make another in keyframe at this point and turn it to click this drop down menu and add this time frame. Make a keyframe on start and drag this playhead right over here and make it 100%. Now select this keyframe and ease it. Go to graph editor, adjust its value. Now I'll duplicate this layer and hit U. At this point I'll add a drop at the end. I'll remove all of this keyframe and make it solo and adjust its value and change its offset and make a offset keyframe over here and make it unsolo. At this point we'll increase its offset. Changes, make it a little bit fast. Trim off these layers beginning. Now select this offset keyframe and hit F9. Go to graph editor and make it a little bit fast. It seems too fast. Bring this layer a little bit earlier. Now make another duplicate of this layer and bring it right over here. Hit U to reveal position. For these layers, turn off the warp wave effect. Make this second one a little bit smaller. At this point, I'll change this cup inside. Curve little bit. At this point, I will add a shadow over this coffee cup. First of all, I'll add a fill effect over this layer Now I'll make a mask on this cup. Click drop down mask and increase its feather. At this time frame, I'll split this layer by pressing Ctrl Shift T. Now I'll adjust its anchor point at the bottom. Hit R and make a keyframe. Then Alt left click and add a wiggle expression over this. We'll adjust our value to 18 and 0.6. Here is our expression is working now. At this point, will split it again and hit U and disable the rotation. We need to delete its expression also. Now I will add a 3D rotation effect on this coffee machine. First of all, I will create a shape layer from this vector layer. Now hit the drop down menu, then content. Now you can see there is 30 group created in this layer. We need to animate all of this path layer. For doing this, I have to search path on the search bar, and then I'll hit the stopwatch of this path. Make sure you add keyframe all of this path. Now bring this playhead at the beginning of the sequence. I'll readjust all of this path layer by considering straight look of the coffee machine. Here is our new path for this coffee machine. Here is our new path for our coffee machine. Now select all of this keyframe and drag it at 1 second. Now select all of these keyframes again and hit F9. Now go to graph editor and make it a little bit fast. We need to readjust this handle path also. Now it's look good. Now I'll make mask for this shape layer. You have to please make sure you select this option. Here is our first mask for the bottom, and here is our another mask for the top of the coffee machine. Here is our two new masks I created from the coffee machine. Now make a position keyframe for this layer. Here's a keyframe, and at the beginning we'll make another position keyframe. Now at this point we'll make a shape layer. Here is our first point, here is our second. We'll drag this layer right at this position. Now we'll drag this coffee machine layer with this newly created shape layer. At this point we'll select this layer, these keyframes, and easy it, and go to graph editor, select this keyframe and drag it right over here. We'll bring this keyframe right over here. At this point I'll also animate the handle also. Because of that I have to readjust the anchor point. I'll hit S for adjusting scales. Now make it 0. Hit F9 and readjust the value in graph editor. I need to make it a little bit fast. Now I will animate these leaves also, leaves and stars. I'm going to make this layer solo. For the stars, I'll make a rotation loop out here. I'll add a loop out expression here. I'll stay with continue. Select this, copy these things and paste it right over here. Bring this layer a little bit ahead. Now in this first lift, I'll adjust its anchor point, and here is anchor point. I'll also give it also a rotation keyframe. Here is our now I will also add a loop out expression here. I'll change this continue to ping pong. Select all of this and copy this and copy these things and paste it here also, these layers, and make it unsolo. I'll give a position position keyframe to these leaves. Here is our first one, and for the second one is our another position keyframe. I'll select all of these layers and ease it and select these layers and make it little bit faster. I'll select these layers and trim it at the beginning. Now unhide this next layer and select this background layer and cut it and bring it over this composition. Now I will duplicate this next layer and make a mask over this layer. I'll add a fill effect on this layer and change its color to dark. At this point I will increase its feather a little bit and change its opacity also. Now make this all of this layer 3D and bring a camera. We'll bring another viewport here. This will be our first position keyframe, and at this point we'll zoom in a little bit. We'll ease it and make this keyframe little bit fast. I'll drag this keyframe little bit. I'll drag this keyframe right over here. Now I'll also give some position keyframe to this next layer also. I'll bring it, make it fast. Now at this point go to camera option and turn on depth of field and add blur level, add a keyframe. Here's another one, and at 1 second we will make it little bit high. We also need to adjust its aperture also. It will give us a little camera blur effect. Now I will add another shape layer in this composition. I'll disable its fill and enable its stroke, and I'll take the white color for this stroke. I'll readjust some point. Now I will add a trim path effect here. I'll change its end and also its start also. At this point I'll animate its offset. I need to readjust this path little bit. Here's our first offset keyframe, and here's another one. I'll add a taper, make it start a little bit more thinner, and also it's in going to be a little bit more thin. Now it's look much better. I'll make some duplicate of this layer. I'll change its position and rotation also. I'll make another duplicate and transform it to horizontal. I'll make a little bit scale up this layer. At this point I will drag it at the bottom but above the background. I'll take a adjustment layer and add a noise effect. I'll take not that much. I'll stick with 12. I'd like to add a vignette. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. If you have any question, write me your question at the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. It will really appreciate me to make this type of informative videos for you.